If anybody hasn't caught on to my scheme here, we have the major types of pipelines represented. Craig started off by hazardous liquid pipelines, and then we just heard from the gas transmission pipeline sector. And now we're going to hear from gas distribution, if I can find the right stuff. And next up is Don Kopczynski, who's the Vice President of Operations for Avista Corporation, who is one of the major distribution companies from the great state of Washington. I have to put that in there because I'm an elected official and I get paid to do tourism for the state of Washington. So there's that. Yeah. Mr. Kopczynski.
Carl, thanks. You know, everybody I've ever met that's passionate about safety, it really comes from generally someplace deep inside. You know, people have some story or something that links them to why they're passionate about safety. I know that's true for Carl. I know that's true for the Pipeline Safety Trust. And, you know, I think for all of us, we appreciate your efforts here, and, you know, I'm happy to be a part of it today. You know, with the pick the right button. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about the industry and really represent the distribution companies that are part of this. And as you've already heard today, you know, distribution companies are really at that pointy end, as we heard from Mark, that we've got just miles and miles of pipe that's out there and lots of exposure from different things that can happen. And we take that pretty serious. You know, the pipeline companies that are represented, or the distribution companies that are represented by the American Gas Association, serve 92% of the gas to gas customers in America. And we take, you know, that responsibility very serious, and we view it as a privilege, and with that comes quite an obligation to make sure we're doing the right things. You know, we already heard that over the last couple of years, the distribution companies have had a tough go of it. We've had several incidents that people have already reviewed, and with that, then we've looked as an association at how we can do better. We've gotten together, we've talked about different things, we've made some plans, we've vetted those throughout the distribution companies. We've also talked with those with our board at the American Gas Association. And what I'm going to describe is some of those different ways we're doing that in terms of pipeline construction and operations, and I'll review some of the different things that we're trying to do to make things safer. First of this is with construction. You know, we've gotten operator qualification that's been a requirement for us for a number of years, where we certify each person that's responsible for gas construction that they are competent to perform the activities that they do. That's been very helpful for us, and we're looking at ways to expand that in terms of what really the theme is of our conference today, and trust but verify. And with that, we're looking at ways to look at quality assurance, more quality control, so we can make sure in the field that even though the people have been tested, that they are doing it the right way. We've also heard a lot of discussion already today about emergency shutoff valves. We know that it's made a difference with excess flow valves on our distribution systems. We're looking for ways to expand it into multifamily and then also small commercial, because we know that's a good safety mechanism. Also, remote control valves and automatic shutoff valves are clearly in our future. There's ways for new construction, and we're going to incorporate those where appropriate, and also review our existing pipelines to put those in where it does make sense. Integrity management's been very, very key. We've gotten lots of data. We've been involved in transmission integrity management for a number of years. That's proven to be helpful to us because we can track and get early detection of things where there might be issues. We're looking at ways to move that now into our distribution system. You know, in our company, we've spent a long time trying to develop a robust distribution integrity management program. We're just now getting that validated by people that audit us, and I think that's clearly going to provide us early detection systems. One other thing we're looking as an association is how do we bring that, then the information we might gather as an individual company, and deal with it on a broader spectrum. And the best way I can think of to do that is use that data and share it widely. You know, we in the distribution business don't compete with one another, so we do share all of our information. So if we can take the data that we're gathering with distribution integrity management and put it out there, we'll certainly see things. Because in my company, we may have two incidents with a certain type of coupling, but if you have 2 incidents from 100 companies, that brings to you a much different approach to what you might do. We've already heard today, too, about damage prevention. Certainly, excavation damage is one of the biggest risks for our business. It is the biggest risk for the distribution companies that are out there. And, you know, we've been partnering for a long time with the Common Ground Alliance, who's done some tremendous work about educating America about how to call before you dig. PIMSA and Jeff have been a real advocate of that for a long time. I think that continued work will help us make sure that excavators are doing the right things, because we know that if you can get people to call before they dig, you've got about a 95% chance of that being a safe installation. If they don't, you know, those statistics drop like a rock. You know, we've looked at a commitment to enhance safety. The American Gas Association has put together a statement that describes all the different activities that you've done, and I'm sure that's already been available. You've probably taken a look at that. But with that, we want to share. We've already mentioned some ways, and I'll describe some additional ways we're going to do that. We need to engage our stakeholders, you know, and that's always important. How do we communicate effectively? How do we partner with emergency responders? Because they really are important to us. And how do we educate them? How do we train them to do the right thing when they are responding to an emergency that involves our gas system? What are the right things that they need to do? And it's hard for when you're spread out like we are in our company, where you've got a lot of volunteer organizations that provide those first responder services. So how do you make sure that they attend the training sessions you offer? How do you give them information that's understandable, that they can use? Those things are critically important. And we continue to look for public awareness that helps us with that. So our outreach programs to make sure the public is also aware of the things that they can do to prevent damage to our pipelines, in addition to calling before you dig. Those things are critically important. And the last piece that's on here is advancements to technology. We're seeing that. We've been partnering with the Gas Technology Institute for a number of years as they do some research and development for new technique, ways to detect gas, ways to find things. Most recently, they've looked at ways that you can find pipelines that we might come in contact with if we're doing directional boring. These kinds of ways where you can find pipes that we don't own, that others have out there, that are also in our distribution footprint, so we don't end up damaging those along the way, is critically important. You know, one of the things that we built this safety culture statement where we're trying as an association and certainly as member companies to say that we are committed to safety, and it outlines the things that we're committed to. But it's clearly more than slogans, as you know, and we're engaging with all of the different regulators that we have that affect the distribution business to make sure that we're coordinating in all the efforts that we can to make sure we're aligned in what we're doing. We're learning from the things that they're suggesting in their audits, and we can work for ways to create a lot more safety out there. We do a lot with AGA in terms of best practices. That's been already mentioned this morning, but best practices are a way for us to learn from each other. And we do that. We leverage one company and what they're doing, and we take that information and put it into our individual companies, and I think that really does help. You know, we've also talked about the importance of having executive leaders in our individual companies connected to that, and that's certainly true at Avista, and I'm sure it's true in every company that's out there. And you've already seen it. It's much more than posters and slogans. It takes a real commitment from executives to make sure that people have the training they need, the focus on safety and emphasis. One of the great things that American Gas Association has done along those lines, we've had, I think, 7 consecutive years we put on Executive Leadership Safety Summit. And the idea is to bring in the executives from our distribution companies together so they can network with others and learn about what their role is as far as how they can build that commitment to safety in the individual companies. And that's been very, very effective. I think each year it's gotten better and better. We've had a chance to learn from each other, and that gives us a really good emphasis on safety. We're continuing that with publications. We also, with Christina Sames and Lori Trey, we coordinated a safety information sharing study where we took the American Gas Association, the Canadian Gas Association, and associations with pipeline companies. And what we did is looked around not only in terms of the people we represent, but also to other industries. We looked at the airline industry, we looked at nuclear industry. What we were trying to do there is see if there were things that we could glean from others that would help us. And we've gotten a lot of ideas. We boiled those down. There are several initiatives that we're embarking on, really trying to work cooperatively to share that information that we can get to do a better job. And lastly, I just want to talk about how do we take this to the next level. One of the things that we learned in that safety information sharing was about peer-to-peer reviews. That's something I think the nuclear industry has used for a long time. And we experimented with this in the West. We had 6 of distribution companies in the West that got together. We each put people that said we would go from company to company and not really do an audit, but do an assessment of their safety practices. And this, I can tell you from personal experience, has been very valuable. So what they did was spent a couple of days inside of my organization. They talked to me, they talked to directors, managers, frontline employees to say, is the information that I shared with them the same as what you're getting from frontline employees? They also looked at the things you see, the methods we use. They looked a little bit at our records. How do we get information out there when we have near misses, those types of things. And then after that, the group met with me and gave me some feedback. Well, here's the things we see that are good. Here's some areas that we see that you can improve. And what they did after that, then they went to the other companies and learned the same thing. So I had a representative for my company that had a chance to go sit for a couple of days in the other companies and learn from them. And what has happened to us in the West is, so we've taken those and now we've all been able to learn. So you've had a way to get best practices that kind of builds like a virus. It just spreads automatically without us creating a program to do that. We're working with AGA to try to broaden that to other parts of the other distribution companies that might be interested in that. Data collection is also a big thing. With distribution integrity management, those types of things, we're going to have tremendous amounts of data. How do we take that and utilize it in an effective manner? That's going to be critically important. And I think that we're certainly on a path to be able to do that. We need to be able to share non-reportable issues in a way that we don't get punished for it. It's always a risk in the distribution business to say, hey, this happened, this went wrong, this was a near miss. And we do that very effectively within our company. But how do you do that where you can take that same information and send it out to more people? Because what we might have experienced, other people can learn from too. But you need to have that in a way that then people that might come in and regulate you and audit you don't hold you hostage when you're sharing that information. But you're doing it in the spirit of people of dispersing that information in a way that allow people to learn quicker. I talked already a little bit about industry collaboration to share lessons learned. We do think there's an opportunity with the pipeline companies, the midstream companies, to share information that helps us all get better. We're going to continue to do that. We've looked at outside safety programs, as I already mentioned, looked at these things I think can help us a lot. And the last thing is really a safety resource center that American Gas Association is trying to put together that will provide the member companies and others some things that they can tap into and use. It may give them things that they're not already using, may give them some guidelines, may give them ways to increase your awareness inside your companies, make the safety meetings that you're having more robust, or give information to leaders like myself that give us a better way to build the safety message throughout our organization. So again, Carl, thank you. I appreciate being here. Look forward to your questions.